Welcome to the 2022 Buffalo Music Hall of Fame induction. My name is Anthony Casuccio, and I'm the president of the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame.
And I'm Tom Lorenz, the vice president of the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame.
Every year, some of Western New York's most memorable musicians are honored for their talent on and off of the stage, and this year's class is one to remember.
That's because the class of 2022 is 4 decades in the making. They have broken both records and barriers. Here are their stories.
Western swing music makes me feel like I'm on cloud 9.
Nolan Bruce Allen is New York's king of Western swing, a truly unique style of country music he's been playing for nearly 60 years.
Well, my brother gave me a Western swing album to listen to about 1966, and that hooked me.
A Grand Island native, Allen served in Korea, first playing country music on Army radio broadcasts and then performing.
First job I ever played professionally was in Korea. Well, it was mostly servicemen, and it was just to make them happy for a while because they're lonely, they're away from home, and so many young guys it's just never been alone before, and there they are. And so you do your best to make them happy, and that's what music's all about, make them feel good.
He played in many venues across Europe, then, after an honorable discharge, brought his love of music back home, and with his Lone Star Western Swing Band, traveled across much of the country, introducing others to this unique music style.
Western swing is a music that consists of all genres, but it's with a leaning slightly to jazz, but it's a challenge and it's fun and it's just more challenging than regular country music.
Nolan played along such country greats as Hank Thompson, Flatt and Scruggs, Johnny Paycheck, Ernest Tubb, and Tex Ritter. But his passion extends beyond Western swing to philanthropic causes, donating a percentage of his CD sales to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. A lifetime member of the Academy of Western Artists and the International Western Music Association, Nolan Bruce Allen recognizes the gold mine of musical abilities in his hometown.
Buffalo is blessed with a wide and deep arena of pure talent. There's a lot of talent in Western New York.
Just like Nolan Bruce Allen, the Western Swing Band's drummer said of Nolan, to say that he only loves Western swing is a huge understatement. It's in his pores. Indeed it is, for 7 decades sharing his passion with the world.
Internationally known trumpeter and band leader Richard Americo Bono was one of the most accomplished musicians to come out of Buffalo during the jazz era. Bono went on to set down deep roots in Western New York and dedicated his life to entertaining audiences with a distinctive instrumental voice and tremendous playing range. Bono was born in 1904 in Lima, New York, south of Rochester. By age 12, his cornet playing was already being featured in a Syracuse area concert band. After completing high school in Italy, he came back to the U.S. and began performing in top bands.
When he was 23 years old, he was playing first trumpet for Paul Whiteman Orchestra in New York City. And of course he got married to my mother there, and in between shows, and I remember him always talking that the people after the wedding were Whiteman, Bing Crosby, the Dorsey brothers, Harold Arlen was there, and Vic Spiderbeck was there.
After that memorable marriage, Dick and his wife returned to New York State.
My father actually left Whiteman's band to form his own orchestra and came back to Buffalo, and Vic Spiderbeck replaced him in Whiteman's orchestra. And back in Buffalo, my grandmother had some clubs, speakeasies and stuff, and he played there and got involved with Shays and Buffalo Broadcasting and the Statler.
As a band leader, he provided the music for artists such as Martha Raye, Mickey Rooney, Morton Downey, Milton Berle, Eleanor Powell, Sophie Tucker, and many other icons who performed at the town casino. He also led bands at Chez Amis, the Glen Park Casino, and the Statler Hilton Hotel Golden Ballroom.
And probably I used to tag along all the time, and I would meet different stars. And on Sunday, a lot of times, my father would invite stars back to the house for an Italian dinner. And I can remember meeting Lena Horne, Louis Armstrong, Nat King Cole, Liberace, and a few more. And that was probably an exciting time in my life.
The Glamour Girl Ball featuring his band drew 14,000 fans. After that farewell show, Bono went back on the road on a tour of the Statler hotels. When his illustrious touring career ended, Bono became a restaurateur, opening several successful spots, including the Italian Village, Bono's Red Shutter, and the Club Mayfair. Each of his venues featured his Bono Orchestra and were known for dancing and fine dining.
In the 70s, he was still getting gigs in nursing homes and that kind of thing, weddings and that. He never stopped playing. He was a 100% true musician. That was his life.
Music makes me feel like I'm connected with life. It makes me feel marvelous. It makes me feel many things. It makes me feel connected with people.
From Carnegie Hall and the Royal Albert Hall to the Kennedy Center, George Caldwell has connected with audiences while playing on some of the world's most renowned stages. For him, music really is the universal language, a language he has spoken with legendary artists like the Duke Ellington and Count Basie orchestras.
It goes directly to people. That doesn't need to be interpreted.
George Caldwell grew up in the South in a musical family. His father's influence helped nurture and guide that talent.
My dad was the music lover in our household, and he gave my sister and I piano lessons from the time I was 8 years old. And, but we always heard all kinds of music. And he just loved music. But his love of music is what inspired all of us.
Classically trained, while still a teenager, George's artistry and abilities surpassed even his teacher's instruction.
I went for a lesson and she said, "I can't teach you anymore." And I thought I had done something wrong, and she was like, "No," she said, "You know everything that I know."
A Grammy Award-winning jazz keyboardist, George Caldwell has worked on Broadway productions and on shows throughout the U.S. and Canada, eventually bringing him to Western New York, where he fell for a Buffalo gal.
I ended up moving here because I came here to play a show at the old Studio Arena, and the show was called Cookin' at the Cookery, and it was about the life of the 1920s blues singer Alberta Hunter. And so I met the woman who is now my wife.
He would soon come to fall in love with Buffalo as well.
I just hope that what I play will resonate with people.
Now he shares his knowledge and passion with young people, directing UB's student jazz ensembles. So respected is Caldwell that musician and author of The Color of Water, James McBride, wrote, "There is no major musician on the American jazz scene who knows more about the technical and creative side of playing jazz." He has acted in 3 films and appeared on television, all while remaining quiet and humble.
So it feels very much like home. The cultural scene, the music scene, I had no idea that Buffalo had such a developed music scene. I didn't know. It's really a great place.
This piano legend has most certainly struck a chord with audiences across the world.
Sujeet Desai's story is unique and remarkable among Buffalo Music Hall of Famers. He has overcome great personal challenges, lifting himself up as an internationally acclaimed multi-instrumentalist and touring performer.
Every time I play my music, I give my audience really cheers it, you know, and my audience gets inspired by me, and they get the encouragement where I can show them my skills.
As a professional musician playing 7 instruments and as a motivational speaker, he has traveled to 15 countries and more than 40 states, performing concerts and presenting workshops.
I play violin, piano, organ, clarinet, B-flat clarinet and bass, also saxophone, trumpet, and drums.
Sujeet has won national and international awards, including presidential awards from Singapore, Dubai, and Trinidad.
It looks like when they leave the doors, I know for sure they can take the opportunity to pick up an instrument and play one. That's what I'm hoping they will go and just do what they can, and I know for sure they can believe they can do it.
Sujeet performed at the opening of the 2009 Special Olympics World Games in Boise, Idaho, and in 2015 became the first musician with Down syndrome to perform at Carnegie Hall, receiving a standing ovation after playing 4 instruments in 7 minutes.
One-way band. You know, I pick up an instrument and it feels good to play music, and like an instrument feels in my hands. And that's where I really enjoy playing that music.
Back at home, Desai has performed at dozens of retirement communities, nursing homes, churches, and charity events across Western New York. He was the first person with a disability invited to open for the Amherst Symphony Orchestra, performing a solo concert.
It's not that easy for me, but I picked it up as I wanted to, and I took lessons, found my violin, and then I started to play more. And now, look at me now, I started to play.
One of Western New York's most highly credited singers, Tanya has paid tribute to her legendary Buffalo influences and predecessors, while at the same time carving out her own unique voice and style as a recording artist, songwriter, actress, producer, and award-winning vocalist.
The Buffalo music community and the R&B music community, for me especially, family is the word that comes to mind. And that sense of family and that group and that kind of love, really, for the people that you work with and are around all the time, is a very big motivator. You know, so for me, that served, you know, being other places, my motivation was always to get back here to them. And because I love them so much, that was real strong. So my family here really gave me the strength to do other things, a lot of different places, but it's because of this family.
Deonna was born in Dunkirk and moved to Buffalo as a child. She studied at the Western New York Academy of Dance and graduated from modeling school. By age 17, she was lead singer in the local reggae band Positive Force.
There was one moment, though, that stands out when I first heard Joey Diggs sing. He is in the Hall of Fame as well. It was magical. And it wasn't just the way he sang. It wasn't just his voice. It was as if he did this and magic filled the air. He had everyone captivated. He brought the whole room together. And that's when I said, that's what I want to do. It was more than just the music.
Upon leaving Western New York, Tanya's performances for national and international audiences included the Grammys with Nile Rodgers and Lady Gaga and the Oscars with Lady Gaga.
the Apollo Theater. I was there a number of times and got to know Apollo Joe. And he invited me to sing with his band, and we sang for many years up and down the Jersey Shore. He introduced Russell and I both to Ray Chu, also at the Apollo, and Russ became a member of the Apollo band. There's another family. And Ray Chu brought us with him to some very places where it was just a privilege to be in the room, like the Democratic National Convention, President Obama's inaugural ball, Carnegie Hall, the Singing Bee, to Europe's Save the World Awards, and American Idol stage.
Tanya paid tribute to Buffalo Music Hall of Fame inducted member Rick James and his protege Tina Marie with her remake of their duet Fire and Desire with Paul Anthony of Full Force. She has also performed with James's original Stone City Band as a backing vocalist and singing lead on Tina Marie songs.
I came up with a lot of Rick James's musicians, and there's a certain sound that is hard to, I call it Buffalo funk. It's hard hitting, it's a heavy bass, and it's just not duplicated anywhere else. When I moved to the New York City area, I had a hard time getting other producers and writers that I was working with to really understand it and feel it. And when my husband came with me back to Buffalo, and he's a Harvard-educated musician, when he first came back here with me and heard all of my guys, that's when he said, oh, and he was able to articulate it in a very specific musical way.
I've been singing since I was a little girl, but then I came into the Buffalo music scene when I was like 19.
Terrie George has long felt at home on stage, but her beginnings were as a dancer until, at the age of 10, she signed up for a camp talent show.
And there was a boy who was a counselor there, and he was kind of an accomplished pianist. And he agreed to play for me, and we did Bridge Over the Troubled Water on Friday night, and it was very well received, and I was hooked.
Born in Kenmore and joining the Buffalo music scene in 1976, Terrie tried on all genres of music for size. She has shared the stage with some of Buffalo's best: Billy McEwen, Joe Madison, Dolly Durante, the Shintas, Joe Head, just to name a few. She has shared her diverse talents with the rest of us: singer, dancer, actress, teacher, and business owner. And since her fibromyalgia diagnosis, she knows firsthand how music can heal.
But I realized that the 10 minutes that I was standing up on the stage at the Sportsman's, I was symptom-free. And so I feel healed on the inside and healed emotionally when I'm doing music.
Some of the industry's biggest names have recognized Terrie's gifts. She has teamed up with the iconic talents like Alabama, Lawrence Welk, and Elliott Randall of Steely Dan fame, and opened for legendary acts that included Pat Benatar, REO Speedwagon, and Fleetwood Mac. When it comes to the talent that has taken root in her own town, Terrie says people are noticing it's in full bloom.
It is a cornucopia of music, for one thing. There is not a genre of music that you can't find in this town.
With enormous talent and an unending desire to give back, Terrie George has raised needed funds for cancer causes, education, families in need, and music is art. The joy she presents is contagious.
At some point, I want them to feel joy or some kind of an emotional connection to something that I deliver.
Terrie George continues to deliver her gifts of music, dance, and more to grateful audiences.
Oh, I always want them to be moved somehow, some way, if they feel a little joy, if they feel a little nostalgia.
Hello, my name is Anthony Casuccio, President of the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame. Over the past 40 years, we have created one of the leading art organizations here in Buffalo. We have created an inclusive nomination process that allows us to reach the far corners of Western New York, and it reflects the diverse community here. We will build on this foundation so that we can continue to honor and educate the community on these amazing individuals that have made the music community so proud. After more than 4 decades of honoring Western New York's great musicians, we have reached a high note with our new headquarters on Amherst Street. We are proud to have made a home in the heart of the city of Buffalo as we strive to grow our programs that honor those musicians that have made an impact on our communities, as well as supporting the growth of future honorees with our student scholarship programs. We also use the power of music to help people in need with our Hall of Fame Heals program. Please visit our website for more information at buffalomusichofoffame.org.
As we celebrate our 40th anniversary, it is exciting to know another class of exceptionally talented people have been selected to augment our already impressive list of past inductees. We are so proud of the accomplishments these people have shared, not only within a specific field, but within the local community and beyond. We have a saying: the collaboration of our inductees' music, performance, and industry involvement can be heard throughout the world. The Buffalo Music Hall of Fame channels this talent by sponsoring scholarship programs to high school candidates, hosting mentorship workshops for upcoming musicians and those interested in working in the music business and recording field. Throughout the year, we co-host fundraising events with partnered organizations to give back to our Western New York community. The Buffalo Music Hall of Fame also hosts concerts featuring our generous and gifted inductees. Please follow us online for more information. And now, back to our program.
Thank you, Tom. Before we meet the rest of our inductees, we want to take a moment to honor members of our musical community who have passed on. Our hearts go out to the families that have lost a loved one. Every life deserves to be celebrated.
We are so grateful so many families and friends have touched our lives.
Celebrating 60 years of service to the Western New York community, Mark Custom Recording, under owners Cecilia and Mark Moret, has for decades been at the forefront of advancements in the audio sciences, becoming a globally acclaimed music studio and premier live recording service.
My dad started as a music teacher and as a professional musician and started the recording company, Mark Custom Recording Service, after that. And I worked in it as a kid, and I was a young kid. I was making records and stuffing them into packages and shipping them out and being a part of the recording studio process. When I was basically a senior, when I decided I want to be a part of this. And it all got punctuated in life after I saw the Dalai Lama speak at University of Buffalo a few years ago. And he said, "Don't live a life full of riches, lead a rich life." And that's what music does to you.
The company was founded by Vincent Moret as part of Century Custom Recordings. Since its founding, the Mark Company has distinguished itself by working with musical icons in a variety of styles, including the Goo Goo Dolls, Rick James, Spyro Gyra, Roy Clark, Dizzy Gillespie, Wynton and Branford Marsalis, 10,000 Maniacs, and many more.
So I think there are generations and generations of music that has been created today because of our past history. And you talk about, again, Rick James, you talk about the people who are there. These are lifelong Buffalo families that are making it big in the music industry. And I think a great deal of that has to do with our past history of our city.
Mark Recording has made 60 Grammy entry list appearances and received 2 Grammy nominations. These citations have included categories such as Best Classical Recording, Best Classical Album, and Best Classical Performance, with 2 Grammy nominations coming in the jazz category.
So much of our great music history comes from the last century, and I'm talking about the 20th century, at the beginning of it, when Buffalo was the vaudeville capital of the world. We were stuck between Chicago and New York City, and we had a wintertime population, 5th largest city in the country at that time, and a lot of it because of the shipping ports. We were one of the world's largest shipping ports back in the turn of the century, 1900s. Ended up being stuck here in the winter. So what they had to do is there were tons and tons of people who were here, but these people needed to be entertained. And the way they were entertained was going to church, going to music scenes. Vaudeville, again, was the popular music form at that time.
The Mark family of audio services has grown to include the Mark Custom Recording Digital Location Recording Service, the 24-track analog and 32-track digital Mark Studios, Mark Digital Editing, Mark Art Custom Design, Mark Audio Equipment, Mark Custom Manufacturing, the Mark Records label, and the Mark Masters Series Classical Music label.
Music is the essence of life. I mean, it is a horrible world, I would imagine, if we didn't have music. We have music in our lives, we don't even know it. There's background music in malls, there's background music in elevators, there's background music in doctors' offices to help make us feel relaxed and calm. Music is constant, and if it's done well, especially, you don't even know what's going on.
2022 Buffalo Music Hall of Fame inductee Darrell Nutt stoked the fires of his Western New York musical upbringing to create a successful career as an internationally recognized drummer and producer, becoming a go-to source for touring, recording, and sampling. Described as a hard-working, blue-collar musician, Nutt grew up in Buffalo and Lockport, started drumming at age 4, and began performing in the 1980s at age 14.
My mom had set up pots and pans on the kitchen floor. I know it's a cliche, but it's true. I would just play and I had rhythm, and they noticed that. So 6, 7, and 8, sitting in with my parents' band and my whole family's musical, so my feet wouldn't even really touch the pedals, but it was something I was going to do forever. I just knew it.
At 17, Darrell was called on stage by Rick James drummer Mike Caputi.
Mike showed me Tower of Power and Rick James and funk and soul and R&B, and it's just like, it's like everything blew up. I loved all that music, and I just soaked it all in. And Mike's responsible for showing me that stuff for sure.
Nutt built Def Media Studio in Southwest Florida, where he has recorded clients from around the world, while also working in graphic design, directing music videos, and creating drum tracks via the online marketplace soundbetter.com. He has provided drum loops and samples for dozens of projects.
I have a recording studio and I produce singer-songwriters, young people in my local area. Usually they're probably like 16 to 21 typically, and it's like their first time in the studio, and I'm passing that positive vibe and that positive mutual respect for them at a young age and giving that to them, and that comes from Buffalo, that comes from my upbringing, and I'm passing that along to them as they're starting their journey.
His credits include touring and recording with singer John Waite and with members of Steely Dan, AC/DC, Goo Goo Dolls, Yes, Moody Blues, Bad Company, and Parliament Funkadelic.
I've played with members of those bands, but yeah, it's still an honor, you know. I mean, I played some big arena shows with some of those guys, and it's a big thrill for me, and the fact that they entrusted me to back them, it means a lot.
Jim Pendolino grew up in a musical family. His father played piano, Jim played drums. He was a high school business teacher still dreaming of performing when those dreams would suddenly take a different path while in Nashville.
And I went to a Kenny Rogers audition. And I'm sitting in the Union Hall waiting for my turn to play. And the tour manager comes up to me and says, "Jim, I've read over your resume. With a business degree, forget it. Go home and get into the business side of it." So I never auditioned. I came back to Buffalo and started the hustle, and here I am.
First working for shows at Melody Fair or Disney on Ice, his career eventually connected him with some of music royalty.
The first Allman Brothers tour, I was lucky. The band's manager, Bert Holman, who's probably one of the smartest people in the world, he can look at a contract from every angle and just dissect it, and he knows exactly what to do. He was there to help. I was lucky to have such a patient mentor with me at that time.
He quickly learned what it took to truly get the show on the road.
They call it show business, and without the business, there is no show. I mean, it all boils down to finances, you know, paying the band, paying the vendors, paying the venue rental and everything.
He has managed the business end of things for Peter Gabriel, Aerosmith, Journey, Madonna, Cher, Def Leppard, the Spice Girls, and more. Out on tour, minding the dollars and cents.
After the gig, you fly to the next city, check in a hotel. The next morning, we're up. I'm wrestling with the hotel about the room and tax bill. We get to the venue, and then the day starts. And while all this is going on with the hotels, I'm getting ticketing audits from the venue so I can see what the ticket sales are. And if we need to release more tickets or whatever, then we do that. And then once I get to the venue, then there's a bunch of stuff going on, maybe payroll problems, maybe production cash is screwed up or something. So we go through all that. The crew is setting up the stage, the band is in the dressing room, and then very simply the show starts and I sit down with the promoter, get the final box office, we go through all the show expenses, and then we hammer out what the band is gonna walk out with.
The assets of the artists are entrusted to people like Jim Pendolino, who ensures the show must go on.
Somebody's got to watch the dollars and cents. Somebody, you know, when you're the tour manager, somebody's got to put out the fires. Somebody's got to get the band from point A to point B.
A powerhouse as a drummer and a workhorse on the Buffalo music scene, Will Schulmeister changed instruments at a young age and found his true calling. Will had his first musical experiences as part of a family trio.
I remember at a very young age playing out at 6 years old, and I'm playing in front of all these people, and they were all happy, which made me happy. And that was the beginning of my whole career. It really was, because I just wanted to keep that going, and somehow I did.
By his teens, he had switched to drums and was performing at coffee houses and school dances with his own band, the Yellow Grove. In the early 70s, Will was playing an intricate style of original rock with Bethlehem Steel, later just called Steel. He also spent 13 years teaching drums, first at Matt's Music, then at Music Mart, AAA Music, Carlone Music, and in private home instruction. In the 80s, Schulmeister became an inventor, devising a weighted drumstick used for practice and conditioning. Will created the Exerstick Drumstick Company to market and sell his products. In the 90s, Will joined the award-winning original blues rock band Wanted by the FBI, recording 3 jukebox hit singles and earning opening slots for national acts including Molly Hatchet.
Wanted by the FBI, we did all original music, and that band, what we did, we were very special with each other and to each other. And somehow we had a connection with our original music, and we sprinkled it in with all the, you know, the covers that everybody else expects. And after a while, they were asking for our music.
Will and his wife Debbie created the not-for-profit foundation, Western New York Drummers for Homeless People, which works to allow musicians and music fans to give back to their communities with donations of money, time, and talent. The nonprofit benefits local homeless shelters, including St. Luke's in Buffalo and the Madeline Project in Niagara Falls.
And I always wanted to give back to the community, and I started Western New York Drummers for Homeless People, and I have musicians, they just welcome the opportunity to come out and help, and we do it. We have events, we collect money, we collect diapers, underwear, socks, and we give it to the homeless people. And that is the most gratifying thing that music has given me. And we continue to do that, and I hope to continue it long after I'm gone.
It was February 1964. watching Ed Sullivan's show and the Beatles came out, and I said, I want to do that.
And he was hooked. Jim Sweet's entree into music began like so many others of his generation. Although he first dabbled in piano, it was the guitar and bass that opened up opportunities.
Probably within about a year, I was out playing little bands around with some kids at school, that type of thing.
Jim grew up in Batavia before settling in the Buffalo area and making his mark on the music scene.
There's a lot of talent here, and a lot of good vocal talent and songwriting talent. It's impressive. It's impressive, and I think it's from the country standpoint, it's probably a secret how good people are here.
Jim Sweet thrives in a wide range of musical scenarios, from R&B to rock and country. He estimates he's played over 6,500 gigs in 50 years and is happy to call himself a side musician.
To use a football analogy, we would be like the offensive line. If we do our job well, then the whole enterprise is better, the stars shine brighter.
Not that Jim Sweet isn't a star in his own right. One of the most versatile and well-respected players on the Buffalo music scene, Jim is a resident performer at the Sportsman's Tavern. He has played with the Stone Country Band, Ghost Riders, J.B. and Company, Doug Yeoman, and most recently the Twang Gang. Not to mention the many national artists he has played in support of while performing in Buffalo.
All in all, it makes me feel real good. I'm happy that this was given to me. This gift of music was given me.
With a master's degree in economics and finance from Buffalo State, Jim Sweet has demonstrated he's a man of many talents. As for his Hall of Fame induction, Jim says he is grateful for the acknowledgement of his skills and accomplishments.
It was greatly appreciated, and my family was so proud of me, and my granddaughter was, or my 9-year-old granddaughter was bragging at her her class at school, and it was nice. It was real nice.
Ensuring, perhaps, that Jim Sweet's musical legacy will live on with future generations.
With distinctive vocal harmonies, mellow instrumentation, and a strong conscience, the Dooleys became one of the most popular and influential acoustic acts on the Buffalo music scene.
For me and for us, I think it makes us feel fantastic.
Paul Swisher and Greg Opolinski met as 10-year-old North Tonawanda Elementary School students. By the time they were in college, the pair had developed as songwriters, singers, and musicians, and formed a duo named after a pin found on the ground by Greg. The original Dooleys featured Greg's lyrics and Paul's melodies, bolstered by the pair's harmony singing.
I think when Greg and I actually got started together in the early 80s, it was more just for fun. But then we realized that we had a really nice two-part harmony, and we started to develop our songwriting. And I think we got probably the most serious when we had our third member come in, Glenn Colton. And then we realized that we really had some really good vocals.
Colton's arrival allowed the Dooleys to build originals and covers around a 3-voice, 2-guitar foundation that established their long-term successful sound as performers and recording artists while maintaining their topical focus.
We had written a song about Terrie Anderson when he was held captive in Lebanon, and it was just one of those situations. We were in Select Sound recording studio, and Ed Caldwell, at the time, who was a journalist for Channel 2, just happened to be there, and he was on the journalist committee to free Terrie Anderson. So that kind of got us involved more in the social aspects of songwriting. Became, very involved in the hostage issue, including going to Washington for a major event to remember the hostages. We were at the event when Terrie Anderson was ultimately released.
After Greg Opolinski left the group to pursue a voice degree at Bowling Green, the Dooleys reached out to new members.
Timmy Wright and Paul Weisenberger were very involved in an organization called Musicians for Kids. And everybody, Joe Mombre, Glenn Colton, all the guys, on the peripheral, that's kind of like a common thread in all of us, is that we all have a real sincere desire to try to be helpful to people and to the community, whether it's hosting coffee houses for local food pantries, the Roswell stuff we did for like 2 decades.
Over the years, the core members of the Dooleys have worked with a bevy of Buffalo Music Hall of Famers, including the late drummer Ted Reinhardt, bassist Tom Reinhardt, David Kane of Them Jazzbeards, and saxophonist Jack Probilski, among many others.
You have the main guys, the Dick Bowerleys, the Frank Pusataris, the George Paleos, Jack Probilskis, but when we were making a list of all the people that contributed to our music, to our playing, to our recording, I mean, we were literally in the over 100 people over that amount of time.
The Dooleys continue to perform and record today, having released a vinyl LP, Peace, Love, and Kindness, in 2020.
I can't remember not having a moment in my life where I felt that music was going to be a part of it in some way.
Like a film score, for Robby Takac, music would always supply the soundtrack for his dreams.
It supplied a lot of emotions for me over the years. I don't know, I guess you hope people are along for the journey.
And what a journey it's been. Growing up in West Seneca, Robby has long been a part of Buffalo's music scene. It provided the building blocks he used to realize the hopes he had for music and life.
I think learned a lot of the lessons that I probably would have learned if I was into sports or scholastic endeavors and stuff. I think I learned that stuff in the garage.
Graduating from Desai, Robby first turned his focus to radio broadcasting. But soon, another dream would take hold. As co-founder and bassist for the Goo Goo Dolls, his band achieved worldwide fame, an exhausting schedule of recording and touring that would ultimately land them on the top of the charts.
In my heart, I hope that people are along for the long haul. I just hope they enjoy it, and I hope they can get something out of it that means something to them personally.
Their songs are sometimes like a love letter to Buffalo. Robby started his own Buffalo-based record label, and his recording facility has opened its doors for many local musicians.
I will tell you that this town is is lousy with talented folks, for real. And to be able to be part of that and to share in that, is always exciting for me.
The Goo Goo Dolls are already in the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame, but it's Robby's other passion that makes him a 2-time inductee.
Well, when Music's Art started, we were alongside the Allentown Art Festival, and I just thought all these people in my neighborhood, they should be seeing some of what I see every day, which is a little different than what was out there, and that was sort of the birth of it.
The Music is Art Festival, established in 2004, exposed the community to the power of music, its cultural and societal impact, its educational value. The annual festival draws thousands and raises much-needed funding to enrich the region with access to music.
If we can spark those kids for 2 seconds, and then have Music is Art there for them to come back to at some point if they're still interested and still engage themselves in stuff that we do throughout the year, that's exciting, man. To me, that's exciting, to see that happen.
Robby Takac wears Buffalo on his sleeve and carries the city in his heart. A contributor to numerous community projects, Robby Takac is an international ambassador for Western New York, and he is most certainly a Buffalo treasure.
Such an incredible group of musicians.
You're right, Tom. But before we leave you, we would be remiss if we did not just congratulate the new members of the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame, but the Hall itself.
Buffalo Music Hall of Fame has been honoring musicians who have been changing our lives one note at a time for the past 40 years.
Happy anniversary, Buffalo Music Hall of Fame!